Good morning, boys and girls. Before we go on to our next lesson in Bible, which is about Samson, I wanted just to show you the cards that I had of Gideon because we haven't done this one together. It was only on a video. So we're just going to review it quickly. So this man right here, that is Gideon. And if you remember from the other videos, the Midianites had taken over all of the Israelites' fields, and they didn't have food, and they were being oppressed by the Midianites because they were bowing down to other gods, mainly one named Baal. So the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon and said that God had chosen Gideon to help defeat the Midianites and lead the Israelites. And if you remember, Gideon was like, why me? Why? We are a poor family and I am very weak. Why would God even think to choose me? Well, God doesn't always choose the strongest and the smartest. He chooses people who are willing, and it also shows that it's not their power, but God's power who works through these things. So if you remember, Gideon prepared a sacrifice or a lunch for the angel, and the angel of the Lord set it aflame. And Gideon was like, okay. And one of his first things to do was destroy his father's statue, idol of Baal. And he did. Even though it was his dad's. But it was what God wanted. But Gideon was kind of afraid. I might be too. There were so many Midianites, and they had been so awful to the Israelites that it would be scary to go up against them. So Gideon needed a special assurances from the Lord. And he prayed to God and he said, God, I just need you to reassure me that I'm going to have victory over these Midianites. I'm going to put this fleece out. And in the morning, if the fleece is wet and the ground is dry, I'll know that it is you who has called me to do this and you will give me victory. And so he did. And the next morning, when he touched the fleece, it was wet and the ground was dry. And then Gideon just said, Lord, can we just do this one more time? Please, I just need your reassurance. This time, would you let the fleece be dry and the ground wet? And so the next morning, the fleece was dry and the ground was wet. So Gideon knew without a doubt he was to gather the men and they were going to go against the Midianites. He gathered thousands and thousands of men. And, God said to Gideon, this is too many. You will think that your power defeated the Midianites, and I want my people to know it was my power. Tell all the men who are scared to leave. And a whole bunch of them left. And then the Lord said, there's still too many. Take the men for a drink down to the river. All the men that bend down and drink out of the river like a dog would drink, send them home. And that was like almost all of them. He was left with 300 men to go against thousands and thousands of the Midianites. So the night before, or that night, I should say, they crept up to the camp. God had given them a plan. He wanted them all to have a ram horn and a torch. And so they crept up there very quietly. And when the time was right, they blew their horns and marched in with their torches. And the Midianites were so confused and so scared, they just woke up. You know how you have that wake up feeling? And they started fighting against each other And they ended up destroying themselves. And Gideon was their judge for 40 years. So, what do you think happened after Gideon died? Yep, the Israelites. They went back to their selfish, evil ways, and God raised 7 more judges. And every time one of them would die, the Israelites would go back. And then they would go back. And they would go back to their evil, selfish, idolatrous ways. And so, God gave them over. God gave them over to their enemy. And so the Israelites were kind of scattered and spread out. They lived in fear. They were scattered throughout the land. However, there were some Israelites who still worshiped the one true God of heaven. And 2 of these were this man here and his wife. This man's name is Manoah. And Manoah and his wife were so sad that most of the Israelites were not believing in the one true God and obeying the one true God. So, one day, when Manoah's wife was outside, an angel of the Lord appeared to her. And the angel of the Lord said, "You are going to have a son." Now, Manoah and his wife did not have any children, and they wanted a child so much, but they didn't have one. But the angel of the Lord told Manoah's wife, "You are going to have a child. Now listen, you must raise him with the Nazarite vow," meaning a vow is like a promise. I'm not talking about the letters. I'm talking about a promise. Like, the Nazarite vow means your child will never be allowed to drink any wine or have anything that comes from grapes. Your child will never be allowed to touch anything that is dead. No dead bodies. Even as he grows into a man. And your child must never cut his hair. Because the long hair will show that he is a Nazarite and that he is living for the one true God under the Nazarite vow. So Manoah's wife ran to her husband and she said, an angel of the Lord just appeared to me and told me that we are going to have a child. It's going to be a son, and we are to raise him under the Nazarite vow. And Manoah said, "Oh, what? This is wonderful news. But how will we know how to raise him under the Nazarite vow? Please let us pray and ask for this angel to come back so that we can talk to him and ask for his advice how to raise this child we're going to have." And the next time we have Bible, we'll find out, did the angel come back? And did Manoah's wife have a son? And did they raise him under the Nazarite vow? I love you, boys and girls. Bye for now.